यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी, राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, तीरा वनचारी, राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी, राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी, राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी, कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 कृष्ण हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम 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 जय राधा गिरिधरी राधे, राधा गिरिधरी राधे, जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय नरसिंहदे जय नरसिंहदे, जय गौरा निताय जय गौरा, जय प्रभुपदा शिल प्रभुपदा, जय गुरुदेवा शिल गुरु, Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai. So now I'm trying to expand my screen because I eventually want to show, there it is, share screen, the verse which I have to share. Share, that's it. Come. Yeah. Are you able to see the verse? Can someone confirm?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Prabhu. So as usual, I'll start with the Mangala Charan, which is our standard practice. And if anyone wants to go with me, so even without unmuting, please chant with me. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yutapadakamelam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagan Raghunathanvitam Sam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Harijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagan Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Vipa Sindhu Bhaevacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे. So we will be now taking up a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Before we pick up this verse, which has been assigned to me, I will glorify Srimad Bhagavatam by reciting 4 verses. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiv narottamam devim swarsatim vyasam tato jayamudire Shrinavatam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridayam stvaya bhadrani vidnoti surit satam नष्टप्राय शव भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी यत् कीर्तनं या श्रवणं यदीक्षणं यद्वन्दनं यस्मरणं यदर्हणं लोकस्य सद्यो विधनोति कल्मषं तस्मै सुभद्रे श्रवसे नमो नमः. In relation to the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam, I further wish to add that when Srila Prabhupada landed in America, and after seeing the abominable conditions of the people living there, his heart filled with compassion, and he wrote a poem. And the name of the poem is Boro Kirpa Koile Krishna. In this song, Srila Prabhupada wrote 16 verses. I'll read the first verse. Boro Kirpa Koile Krishna Adhamer Prati Kila Giya Gela Eta Koro Evegati. You brought me on in this place. I don't know what is your purpose, but whatever is the purpose, you now guide me whatever I have to do. So in the ninth verse of this song, Srila Prabhupada included five verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And out of those five, two I have recited just now. Srinvatam Katha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. And there's one more. Nasht Prayesha Bhadresha Nityam Bhagavad Sevya. In relation to this, these five verses, Srila Prabhupada in the 8th verse of his song, he writes, Bhagavater Katha Se Tab Avatar, Dhir Hoya Shune Yadi Kane Bar Bar. Which means that if someone, or rather Srila Prabhupada is first demonstrating his dependence on Srimad Bhagavatam to carry out his preaching mission. He is saying, Srila Prabhupada is saying that Bhagavater Katha Se Tab Avatar. The topics of Srimad Bhagavatam are incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna. And one gets dhir. Dhir means sober only if one hears them again and again. Now we can say that we all who are part and parcel of ISKCON, we are having very good life in comparison to people who are not a part of ISKCON. And when we say that and when we believe that, then we have to also express our thanks to a wonderful society created by Srila Prabhupada known as ISKCON. And in creating this society, after hearing the poem Srila Prabhupada has composed, we can safely infer that the foundation of ISKCON is Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are very fortunate in that sense that we are having the opportunity of speaking and hearing Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam. So that the whole basis of our happiness being in ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada gives credit to Srimad Bhagavatam. Now I'm going to take up the verse and then we will see where we go from here. I'm going to read this verse. The verse is number 45 from chapter 7, canto 4. Name of the title is Sacrifice Performed by Daksha. Here goes the verse. Brahmana Uchchuhu Tam kratustam havistam hutashah swayam Tam himantra samid darva patrani cha Tam sadas ardvijo dampadi devata Agni hotram svadha som ajam pashu Brahmana Uchchuhu Tam kratustam havistam hutashah swayam Tam himantra samidar patrani cha Tam sadasartijo dampadi devata Agni hotram svadha som ajam pashu Brahmana Uchchuhu Tam kratustam havistam hutashah swayam Tam himantra samidar patrani cha Tvam sadasyatyujo dampadi devata agni hotram swada som ajam pashu. Word translation, and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Word translation. Brahmana, the Brahmanas, Uchuh said, Tvam you, Kratuh, sacrifice, Tvam you, Havi, offering of clarified butter, Tvam you, Hutashah, fire, Swam, personified, Tvam you, Yai, for Mantra, the Vedic hymns, Samit, Darbh Patrani, the fuel, the kusha grass, and the sacrificial pots, Cha and Tvam you, Sadasya, the members of the assembly, Ritvija, the priest, Dampadi, the chief person of the sacrifice, and his wife, Devata, demigods, Agnihotram, the sacred fire ceremony, Swadha, the offering to the forefathers, Soma, the Soma plant, Ajam, the clarified butter, Pashu, the sacrificial animal. Translation. The Brahmana said, Dear Lord, you are sacrifice personified. You are the offering of clarified butter. You are the fire. You are the chanting of the Vedic hymn for which the sacrifice is conducted. You are the fuel. You are the flame. You are the kusha, grass, and you are the sacrificial pots. You are the priest who perform the yagna. You are the demigods headed by Indra, and you are the sacrificial animal. Everything that is sacrificed is you on your energy. Purport. In this statement, Lord Vishnu's all pervasiveness is partially explained. It is said that in the Vishnu Puran, it is said in the Vishnu Puran that as a fire situated in one place emanates its heat and illumination everywhere, so whatever we see within the material or spiritual world is nothing but a manifestation of different energies emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmana statement is that Lord Vishnu is everything: the fire, the offering, the clarified butter, the utensils, the place of sacrifice, and the kusha. He is everything. It is confirmed herein that the performance of Sankirtan Yagna in this age is as good as all other yagnas in other ages. If one performs Sankirtan Yagna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, there is no need to arrange elaborate paraphernalia for the prescribed sacrificial ceremonies recommended in the Vedas. In the chant of the holy names, Hare and Krishna, Hare means the energy of Krishna, and Krishna is the Vishnu Tattva. Combined together, they are everything. In this age, persons are harassed by the influence of Kali Yuga and cannot arrange for all the requisite paraphernalia for performing sacrifice as recommended in the Vedas. But if one simply chants Hare Krishna, it is to be understood that he is performing all kinds of yagna because there is nothing within our vision except Hare, the energy of Krishna, and Krishna. There is no difference between Krishna and his energies. Thus, since everything is a manifestation of his energy, it is to be understood that everything is Krishna. One simply has to accept everything in Krishna consciousness, and he is a liberated person. Excuse me. One should not misunderstand that because everything is Krishna, Krishna has no personal identity. Krishna is so full that in spite of keeping himself separate from everything by his energy, he is everything. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter. He is spread throughout the creation as everything, but still he is not everything. The philosophy recommended by Lord Chaitanya is that he is simultaneously one and different. That is the end of purport. Mukum karoti vachalam pangulangayate kirim yatkirpatam aham vadne Shri Gurudin Karanam. Now, before we further have a look of this verse, let's have a check on its background as to why the Brahmanas are saying this thing, what we have just now heard. It so happened, we also heard the story of Daksha yesterday from His Grace Kadam Kanan Prabhu. But assuming that not all of the devotees who are present today had heard it, so even at the cost of repetition, I'm going to say it again. It so happened that at the time of Swambhuva Manu, Lord Brahma felt the need of filling in the universe with the population. So, out of the marriage of Swambhuva Manu and his wife Shatrupa, 3 daughters were born, and these daughters are very famous, and their names are Akuti, Devhuti, and Prasuti, and their respective husbands are Ruchi, Prajapati. Prajapati means progenitor, and Kadam Muni, and third, Prasuti, her husband's name is Daksh Prajapati. Since this verse is in relation to Prasuti, so we will have our focus only on Prasuti and Daksh. Out of the wedlock of Daksh Prajapati and Prasuti, 16 daughters were born. Their names are given in the beginning of this canto. And out of 16, 13 daughters were handed over to a demigod called Dharma. And 1 daughter each was married to Pitraloka, among Pitras, and Agni. And the last daughter, whose name was Sati, was married to Lord Shiva. Even after marrying Sati with Lord Shiva, Daksh Prajapati had developed some kind of grudges against Lord Shiva. There are 3 reasons which come to my mind, which were responsible for developing envy towards Lord Shiva by Daksh Prajapati. One of the chief reasons is that he was not aware of the divine qualities of Lord Shiva. And secondly, as I heard from my Guru Maharaj, and Daksh Prajapati felt that the standard of living of Lord Shiva was not up to the mark, in the sense that since he had given his daughter in the marriage, so he was expecting a comfortable life for his daughter, whereas Lord Shiva did not have any palace. What to talk of palace? He did not have even a house. He was living in mountain Kailash under trees, and he was just chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra or Ram 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 Ram. So, and then even on the appearance part, Daksh Prajapati had some complaints that Lord Shiva uses ashes of the dead bodies to decorate himself, and also Lord Shiva carries so many serpents with him, which makes him a little fearful. So he used to take every opportunity to condemn Lord Shiva. He didn't like Lord Shiva. And third reason is also very important, which is part of the whole story in the Bhagavatam. Once, when Lord Brahma appointed all the Prajapatis, so a grand sacrifice was arranged. In that, um Lord Shiva was also there, and Lord Brahma himself was there, and all other demigods and Prajapati, they were also there. When Daksh Prajapati entered into the sacrificial arena, he was given a standing welcome by all the present there, except Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Lord Brahma, because he was senior, and Lord Shiva did not care to care to get up and welcome uh, Daksh Prajapati. So Daksh Prajapati, uh, because of his uh, potency and bodily luster, he was cheered by everyone. When Daksh Prajapati observed that his father-in-law has not got up, he spoke some uncharitable words against Lord Shiva. And he started criticizing then and there only that this personality has no etiquettes, that I have come and is not even greeted. So that is another reason. Anyway, as I said, uh, Daksh Prajapati used to criticize and offend Lord Shiva on every opportunity. So in the meantime, what happened that Lord Brahma appointed Daksh Prajapati as chief of the uh, Prajapatis, and this appointment was uh, in a way celebrated by a yagna, by two yagnas rather. The name of yagnas are also given in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vajpaya and Brahaspati Shava. So in those yagnas, the second one particularly, he invited all the demigods along with their wives and all other personalities, rishis and munis from the universe. They came, and this this yagna was to be performed with great pomp and show. And then he did not deliberately, because of his disliking towards Daksh Prajapati, he particularly did not invite Lord Shiva and Sati. When Sati observed in the sky, the aeroplanes are flying and they are moving towards the sacrificial arena of her father, she also desired to go there. It was natural because it was, after all, her father's house. And she, as per the Vedic etiquette, she approached Lord Shiva for for his permission, as well as to make a request to accompany her to her father's house, where great festival of yagna was taking place. Lord Shiva, when he heard the request of Sati, Mother Sati, Lord Shiva said that one can sustain or tolerate the injuries caused by the arrows of an enemy, by any enemy. But it is very hard to tolerate the ill words spoken by the enemies, because those words stay in the heart. So, considering that, and also knowing the fact that Daksh Prajapati used to criticize um, Lord Shiva and offend him, Lord Shiva uh, said that we should not go. But then Mother Sati, she argued that how can a daughter remain undisturbed if she doesn't participate in the festival which is happening at her father's place? And there was another reason. Sati wanted to go there because she wanted to see her sisters, which was again very natural. After her marriage, this was an opportunity to go and talk and meet her sister as well as her mother. She was very affectionate towards her sisters and mother. When Lord Shiva declined her request to go, she got very angry. And when she got angry, she also lost some sense of rationality. She decided on her own that, okay, even if Lord Shiva doesn't want to go, but I will go. So she stepped out of the place where she was staying and she started moving towards her parents' house. And seeing that she was going alone, uh, the chief disciples of Lord Shiva, Mahiman and Mad, along with his carrier, Nandeshwar, and, and thousands of yakshas, they also joined in going to Daksh Prajapati's sacrificial arena. So when Sati, along with the associates of Lord Shiva, arrived at the sacrificial place, nobody welcomed her. Not to talk of welcoming her, nobody looked at her except her sisters and mother. They welcomed her, and in fact, the people who did not give her reception, they did it so out of fear of Daksh Prajapati. Daksh Prajapati, even Daksh Prajapati did not welcome her. So, seeing that, Mother Sati was in tears, that even her father is ignoring her. Nonetheless, she met with her sisters and mother happily, and she chatted with them. But when she observed that the Brahmanas present in the sacrifice, they did not offer oblation for her husband, Lord Shiva, which was a kind of direct insult towards Lord Shiva. So she felt very bad and very angry. At that point, she started appreciating the qualities of the divine qualities of her husband. And of course, Lord Shiva's devotional qualities as well. So, since the insult was already inflicted on Lord Shiva, she decided uh, to give up her body. And then there are some verses in relation to her decision to give up her body, which are more of philosophical nature, because she felt that this body is useless. And then she decided, as I said, she decided to give up her body. She focused her all her attention on the lotus feet of Lord Shiva. And when her subtle bodies were fully cleansed up, fire erupted and it consumed Lord Sati's body, and Lord Sati became dead. At that point, the associates of Lord Shiva decided to launch an offensive against Daksh Prajapati. But since in that sacrificial arena, the great rishi Bhrigu Muni was also present, he offered special oblation in the sacrifice, and out of that fire, a demigod named as Rabhus was born, and he expanded himself in thousands of numbers. And he drove all the associates of Lord Shiva back, and they prevented the associates of Lord Shiva to attack them. So in this way, the associates of Lord Shiva led by Maiman and Mad and Nandeshwar, they went back and, of course, reported to Lord Shiva. But in the meantime, Narad Muni, he informed uh, Lord Shiva that Sati had left her body. When Sati left her body, when Lord Shiva heard this news, sad news, because Mother Sati was very dear to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva became very angry, and he started dancing out of his anger. He started dancing, laughing, and making expressions of extreme unhappiness. And Lord Shiva also decided to kill Daksh Prajapati. So he dashed his ear on the ground, and by this activity, a demon was born who had thousands of arms. He was very fearful, fearsome demon, very huge with black color. His description is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. His name was Veerbhadra. So when that demon appeared before Lord Shiva, he asked, "My lord, what can I do for you?" Lord Shiva instructed him, "Go and kill Daksh Prajapati and his associates, of course, his soldiers." So, following order of Lord Shiva, Veerbhadra, along with many other chief associates of Lord Shiva, they went to the sacrificial arena and uh, almost completely destroyed all the things which were lying there, and they started killing all the soldiers and other supporters of Daksh Prajapati. And in the meantime, um, Mahiman, who is one of the chief associates of as a chief disciple of Lord Shiva, he pulled the mustaches of Bhrigu Muni, who had created Rabus. And then Veerbhadra, that demon who was created by Lord Shiva, he arrested Daksh Prajapati and he tried to kill him. He tried to sever his head, but he found it very hard. He was a little puzzled as to why he is not able to cut his head, cut the head of Daksh Prajapati. Eventually, he took sacrificial wood, and with that help and making some more efforts, he cut the head of Daksh Prajapati and killed it, and used his head as an oblation in the sacrificial fire. And then uh, they went back and explained the whole thing to Lord Shiva. In the meantime, since the considering the purpose of the sacrifice, which was to create population in the universe, the brahmanas and priests present there, they felt that this yagna has remained, or the sacrifice has remained incomplete. So they went to Lord Brahma to seek his guidance as well as help. So there, they explained that Daksh Prajapati has been killed by the soldiers of Lord Shiva, and the sacrifice remains incomplete. Lord Brahma blamed Brahmanas. He said the Brahmanas are responsible because they did not offer oblation apart for Lord Shiva. Anyway, Lord Brahma agreed that let's go to Lord Shiva to pacify him. So they went to Mount Kailash, and there's a beautiful description of the Kailash in that chapter, how Mount Kailash looks like. And then they first of all, Brahmaji, after exchanging obeisances, Brahmaji glorified Lord Shiva And in return, Lord Shiva also glorified Lord Brahma. And then Lord Brahma requested Lord Shiva that he, Lord Shiva can forgive uh, Daksh Prajapati and allow them to restart the sacrifice. Lord Shiva eventually got pacified, and he also agreed to uh, revive Lord the Daksh Prajapati. But the problem was his head was already burnt into ashes. So what to do? So Lord Shiva proposed that okay, we will kill a goat in the sacrifice, and then we will use goat's head uh, for Daksh Prajapati. And eventually this happened. And when the goat's head was fixed on the body of Daksh Prajapati, he immediately got back his consciousness as if he has come back from sleep. And on seeing the whole thing, Daksh Prajapati felt apologetic and he sought forgiveness from Lord Shiva. And then uh, the sacrifice was allowed to restart. So when the sacrifice was restarted, then came Lord Vishnu. It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Vishnu uh, came there on his carrier Garurji. He sat on very huge wings of Garurji. And at that time, when Lord Vishnu appeared, everyone present there, every group of people or high personality individual, they offered prayers to Lord Vishnu, which is norm. It started with Daksha, Brahmaji, and priests, Vidyadhars, and then finally Brahmanas. So this, the verse I have spoken, that is in relation to that sacrifice. When Lord Vishnu came, Brahmanas offered their uh, offering to Lord Vishnu. So this is the background of this verse. Now, if we look back at this, is the whole incident of starting from Swambhuva Manu and Satrupa Mataji, ending with uh, um, offerings being made by personalities present there, we find that there are two observations which I can make. One is that yagna rather is a part of, integral part of any festivity in the Vedic culture. Why is it so? Because Krishna says that uh, in third chapter, Krishna says that Kram Brahmo. One second, I missing that, sir. Yeah. Karam Brahmodbham Vidit Brahmakshar Samudbhavam Tasmat Sarvagam Brahma Nityane Yagne Patishtitam. So Krishna is advising that we should always be situated in the yagna. We should do yagna. And we know what is the yagna for the Kali Yuga, Sankirtan yagna. Another thing is that one can question when the sacrifice named Brahaspati Shava was being performed, why didn't Lord Vishnu come there? Because generally when yagna is performed, Vishnu is present. The answer to this is that Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu, they knew that the trouble is going to come up because of the offensive nature of Daksh Prajapati. So therefore they avoided going there. Someone may say that how did they know it? Then that is the answer lies in Bhagavad Gita in 7th chapter. Krishna says, Vedaham samtitani vartmanani cha Arjun bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedna kaschan. I know what is happening now. I know what is going to happen in future. I know in the past. Vedaham samtitani, atit. Atit means in the past. And bhavishyani in the future. And vartmanani in the current. I know everything, but nobody knows me. So therefore, Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, or say Lord Krishna, they knew it that this trouble is going to come up. So therefore, they did not come. Now, if we analyze the first of all, when I got to know that I have to speak on this verse, the first thing which struck me was that the Brahmanas are saying the same thing which Lord Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita. In 9th chapter, verse number 16, Krishna says, Aham Katur, Aham Yagna, Swadam Aham Ashtam, Mantroham Aham Avajyam, Aham Agnir, Aham Hutam. And if we read the translation again, the Brahmanas are saying the same thing in the verse, that the only difference is in Bhagavad Gita, since Lord Krishna is speaking, he is saying I, aham. Every time it is saying aham kratur, aham yagna, swadam aham ashtam, mantroham aham vajyam, aham agnir, aham utam. So if I count, maybe 6-7 times he has said aham. Aham means I. Whereas in this verse, number 45, the Brahmanas are saying you. More or less, the meaning is same. I counted in 3 sentences in the translation. Brahmanas have used 12 times you. So difference is you and I, but you and I lead only to one, Krishna. So it is Krishna being glorified in this verse through the statements of Brahmana. Now, why another question may arise as to why Brahmanas and personalities there who were glorifying Lord, why were they doing it? The answer is given in Brahma Samhita. In Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma says, Yad bhav diyo manujas tathaiva samprapya roop mahima sannayana bhusha sukteryameva nigama pratitai sutuvanti govindam adipurusham tam aham bhajami. The pure devotees of the Lord have only one business, to glorify the Lord. Sutuvanti means glorifying. So what Brahmanas, or yesterday we heard from Kadam Kanan Prabhu, Vidyadhar speaking. They were doing the same thing because they are all pure devotees of the Lord. So therefore they are glorifying the Lord. Now, if we analyze if we closely read the purport of Srila Prabhupada, there are a few points which emerge. One, it talks about the all-pervasiveness of the Lord, which is again mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. But before I refer to the verse which I want to quote, as I said earlier, when I read the translation of the verse from Bhagavatam, it struck me that Bhagavad Gita existed millions and millions of years before. It is not that just 5,000 years before this Bhagavad Gita has appeared after the battle of Mahabharata, even though it is clearly stated by Srila Prabhupada in purport of first verse of chapter 4, that Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Vivaswan sun god 120,400,000 years before. But considering the this incident of Daksh Prajapati, it looks like that it's clear that Bhagavad Gita existed since time immemorial. It is just that whenever Lord feels the need of re-establishing it, Sakalene Mahata Yoga Nishta Parantava, whenever this science is seen to be disappearing, Lord makes arrangement to reset the religious principles through the medium of Bhagavad Gita. Now, the talking of the all-pervasiveness of the Lord, all-pervasiveness in Hindi means Sarvyapi. In chapter 9, fourth verse, Krishna confirms, Maya sarvam tadamidam jagat avyakt murtina matsani sarvbhutani nacham tesham avastita. I am everywhere, but I am not also. This is a statement which is clarified in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, that even though Krishna is to be seen in everything, in every atom, but still Krishna has his own personality, which is again confirmed in Brahma Samhita. Venum Kavanantam Arvindalai Taksham. Very beautiful. He always plays his Venu. That is, what is it called in English? Venu? Bansuri. Flute, sorry. So, another thing which Srila Prabhupada confirms in the purport is that even though the yagnas were being performed in Vedic culture earlier, but in this age, Sankirtan is the only yagna which is prescribed, and which is also the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam. Kite yad dhyayate Vishnu, tetayam yajito makai, dvapare paricharyam kalau tadhari kirtanat. In Satyuga, the method for, or the way out for deliverance was meditation on Vishnu, dhyayato Vishnu, krite yat dhyayato Vishnu, tetayam yajito mukhai. In Treta Yuga, it was recommended to perform huge yagnas, and similarly in Dwapar Yuga, very elaborate and opulent worship of the deities is recommended. But in Kali Yuga, it is Sankirtan movement, which is Sankirtan is the only way. Sankirtan doesn't necessarily mean that chanting only on the roads or in the temples. Sankirtan also includes book distribution. Sankirtan also includes prasadam distribution. So all these are activities which are meant to glorify the Lord. Sankirtan. Sankirtan means, sang means together, kirtan means to glorify the Lord. So these are the things which come up when we read the purport of this verse. Now, the last point which I felt is that it's while talking of the all-pervasiveness of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada has also established in the purport that Krishna has a distinguished personality, distinct and distinguished personality, which is confirmed by Arjuna in 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Param Dham, Param Brahm, Param Dham, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. Param Dham, Param Brahm, Param Dham, Purusham. Then he says Purusham. Purusham means the Lord has personality. It totally demolishes the theory of impersonalism. So we can safely say that apart from the fact that Krishna is all-pervading, Krishna also has very beautiful, attractive personality. So this is the purport of, this is the conclusion of this purport. Now I want to touch another part. Sometime devotees might feel that I won't take long. I know it's getting late, but maybe another 10 minutes. If you read the prayers in Bhagavatam, whether it is from Lord Brahma, whether it is from Vasudeva, whether it is from gopis or whether it is from gopas, except for the prayers of gopis and gopas, or maybe parents of Lord Krishna, but the prayers from other devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, or even in this chapter, Brahmanas and Vidyadhar, Daksha, they all lead to few conclusions where it is glorified that Lord is limitless, Lord is above the material mode of nature, Lord is creator, maintainer, and annihilator of the universes. All these things lead to more or less same thing. But the most wonderful thing is that these prayers are in different words, sometimes in different meters, but the more or less the conclusion is same. Somebody may question that what was the need for Shukdev Goswami to place so many prayers? Uh, he could have managed with one or two sets of prayers. Uh, I'm not referring to the prayers of gopis and gopas. They are more on the more intimational level. But prayers which are necessarily speaking about the opulences of Lord Krishna, somebody may say that maybe one or two sets were enough. But no, my Guru Maharaj resolves this question. Guru Maharaj says that uh, when we repeatedly read and understand prayers, it can happen that maybe out of 10 or 15, one 10 or 15 sets of pairs, one or two may immediately hit us. And we will, we all try to uh, repeatedly think of that, we meditate on that. I know majority of devotees while reading Bhagavatam, they maintain separate notebook and they start noting down any verse which they find very attractive, and then they try to meditate upon it, and then they memorize it also. Somebody may say that why do we do so? Actually, devotees who feel that they are going to go back to Godhead even in only in this life, then they don't need to bother about what I'm saying. But for a person like me, I don't think I'm a candidate to go back to Godhead in next 1,000 lives even, because I've done nothing. And then I also remember what is said by our Acharya, Amara Jivanu Sada Paparati Naiko Punya Ralesh. In the whole life, I've not done anything which is Sukruti. So anyway, the point here is that if we repeatedly read Bhagavatam, as it was said in the glorification, Nityam Bhagavat Seva, then we come across verses which we can note down in a book and remember it. And then how will it help? Shukdev Goswami answers in the prayer of Gajendra. In the first verse of this prayer, Shukdev Goswami says, Evam Vivastito Buddhaya Samadhaya Manohidi Jajap Paramam Japyam Pragjanman Anushikshitam. Pragjanman Anushikshitam. In the previous life, what Gajendra had learned and repeatedly chanted, he remembered that prayer. And then when he was caught by the crocodile, he found no other way except making prayer to the Lord to get rid of this problem. In the beginning, it is said that evam vivasto buddhaya. We can also pat ourselves to say that the devotional service or the process of devotional service is for the buddhayas. Buddhaya means intelligent, not for the buddhus. So anyone who is engaged in devotional service is to be considered as a wise person, whereas others are not. So therefore, it is good to remember some verses and repeat those verses, who knows, one day Krishna may appear before us, and then we may also have to offer prayers to the Lord. And it is also not necessary that we have to compose our own verses. We can just pick up verses, prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam, and if as much as we can, maybe one verse or two verse or maybe whole prayer, we can memorize it, and then we can repeatedly chant it. We don't know when we are going to be caught by any crocodile, and then we would also need prayers to make to Lord to get rid of any futuristic problem. And as I was saying, that there is no need to compose our own prayers unless we have full knowledge of the Kavya Shastra, the scripture which deals with the composition of the poems. I remember one incident in relation to Chaitanya Charitamrita. There was a Bengali poet who had composed a poem in glorification of Gauranga Prabhu. And he wanted it to be heard by Gauranga Prabhu. Gauranga Prabhu had a rule that he will listen to any new poem first, to listen to any new poem, first it should be vouched by or heard by his secretary. What was his name?
Swarup Damodar.
Sorry, Swarup Damodar. Thank you, Prabhuji. Swarup Damodar. So one of the associates of Swarup Damodar Swami Goswami, his name was Bhagwan Acharya. He first met that Bengali poet who had composed that poem, and that Bengali poet requested Bhagwan Acharya to arrange a meeting with Gauranga Prabhu so that he can glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But as was the rule, Acharya Bhagwan took that Bengali poet to Swarup Damodar Goswami, and on meeting, Swarup Damodar Swami said, sorry, I'm repeatedly saying Swami, but Swarup Damodar Goswami, he advised that Bengali poet to chant the introductory verse. And I'm going to now read from Chaitanya Charitamrita, that verse, and a couple of more verses, and then I'll conclude it. The one second. Yeah. So the verse, which was the introductory verse, which was composed by that Bengali poet, it is like this. Vikach Kamal Netre Shri Jagannath Samagye Kanak Ruchir Ithatmanya Atmatam Ya Prapanna Prakriti Jadam Ashisham Chaitanyan Avirasit Sa Dishtau Tav Bhavyam Krishna Chaitanya Deva. The translation is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has assumed a golden complexion and has become the soul of the body named Lord Jagannath, whose blooming lotus eyes are widely expanded. Thus, he has appeared in Jagannath Puri and brought dull matter to life. May that Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Deva bestow all good fortune upon you. On hearing this, everyone present there, they applauded Bengali poet. But Swarup Damodar Goswami had different view. So he said, Shalok Suni Sarvalok Tahare Vakhane Swarup Kai Eshalok Karavekhane. Swarup Goswami said, please explain this verse. So then next verse is, Kavi Kahe Jagannath Sundar Sharir Chaitanya Goshani Shariri Maha Dhir. The poet said, Lord Jagannath is a beautiful body and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is exceptionally grave, is the owner of that body. Now, this was uh, contradictory in the sense that he was, the Bengali poet was considering Lord Jagannath to be as just as a dull matter. And hearing this, Sarup Damodar Goswami became very angry. He said, Shunya sabar hela anandit man, dukh pana sabru kahe sa krohod bachan. So he became angry and he said with anger. And what did he say? Are मूर्ख अपनार कैली सर्वनाश तुहिता ईश्वरे द्वरे नाहिक विश्वास. You have no, you are a fool. You have brought ill fortune on yourself. For you have no knowledge of the existence of the two lords, Jagannath Deva and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, nor have you faith in them. And then then Savrup Damodar Goswami gave him a good explanation that they are two different avatars, and that's how it ended. But at the end, uh, Savrup, the last verse which I wanted to quote was that Savrup Damodar Goswami said that you should stay in the company of Gauranga's devotees so that you can understand the principles of devotional service. So the point I was trying to make was that we can fully and completely depend on the prayers which are incorporated in Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can see that we will see that we achieve the ultimate perfection of life. That's all I have to say. I'll just sum up what I've said. That first, from this verse, which was taken up from Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishna is Sarvyapi, all pervasive, and Krishna also has his own very beautiful personality. And as advised by our Acharya Srila Prabhupada, we have to continue to engage ourselves in Sankirtan movement. As I said it in the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam, Nityam Bhagavat Sevya. In doing so, we have to continue our Sankirtan activities. With that, I will close it. And if I've said something which I should not have said, please ignore it. And if I said something which you liked, please give credit to Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you very much, Anadi Mohan Prabhuji. Such a wonderful class. You gave us such a nice background to this verse, and you came to the main verse. Then you ended with how the prayer should be said and how it should be authentic. Thank you very much. Anybody got any question, comments? Please, we still have a few minutes.
I took a little longer than I should have. I appreciate for that.
Yes, thank you. Just one comment.
Sure.
This episode where the demon created by Lord Shiva, Virabhadra, he created such a commotion in the sacrificial arena of Laksha Prajapati. So this was also happening the previous time. If you compare, such a like fighting and cutting off the heads, and it's like in a yagna, this sort of happening is chaotic. I mean, but you mentioned because Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu did not come because offensive mentality of Daksha Prajapati. So it appears that once somebody has this offensive mentality, the sacrifice or whatever the devotional service doesn't go along well.
Yeah.
So that's one of the lessons we have to learn from this.
That's correct. So I'm glad that Prabhuji, you raised this point. That also gives us a lesson that we should never be offensive towards our fellow devotees, because our Sankirtan Yagna is also the same as the Yagna performed by Daksh Prajapati. Daksh Prajapati offended the topmost devotee of the Lord Shiva, and in our congregations and our society, we must make all sorts of efforts to avoid any offense towards our devotees.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for giving me a chance to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam.
Anybody else comments? Okay, then we'll end here. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for the wonderful class. We'll see you some other time.
Thank
And Pranam. So
Thank
Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktavind ki, Adi Mohan Prabhu ki jai, Gaur Vanchakal Patruvesha Kripa Sindhuvesha, Pavibhyo Vishnuvyo Namo. Hare Ram ki jai.